back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Human Resources, written by Eddie Robson. This is the conclusion of the first season of the 8th Doctor Adventures, starring Lucy Miller, played by Sheridan Smith. This is like a lot of the new series season finales, is the story that they're building up to. We've had little details of the headhunter, this woman trying to chase down Lucy Miller, and in the last story, No More Lies, she finally caught up with her and has taken her away, whilst the Doctor, he's stuck in the TARDIS and the cloister bells ringing, meaning that there is certain danger in the not so distant future. So this story concludes with that. And what's kind of annoying is because if we can see on the cover is that there's a massive spoiler here. This is a story that came out in 2007, so spoilers were going to be inevitable. But the story features the Cybermen. What's really annoying about this is that they don't actually appear in the first episode a lot. They're literally like the cliffhanger. So, we're going to have to kind of spoil it. This is considered to be by many a really great story, and one of the 8th Doctor's adventures starring Lucy Miller, one of the best stories in this particular run. I'm not too keen on it personally, but it's still a pretty good adventure. We need to learn a bit more details on what's happened with Lucy and what the mystery is behind her being put into witness protection program, and why 2006, which was the year Lucy was taken, why that was blocked off by the TARDIS, and why 2006 was dubbed a temporal backstop in time so that the Doctor's TARDIS couldn't arrive there. And that includes in that story, and it's basically the revelation of that. It does mean, however, that you do have to at least listen to at least one other story. You have to listen to at least Blood of the Daleks to know what happens in Human Resources, or at least what's going on. But apart from that, you don't need to listen to the entire series. You just need to listen to really Blood of the Daleks, and maybe No More Lies to find out where Lucy is at this moment, which is kind of annoying in a sense, but that's personally me us not being a huge fan of these story arc-y like plot lines. I've never been a huge fan of them. They're not bad. I'm not saying they're bad. I know a lot of people like them. I know a lot of people who love them, and actually would be more disappointed that shows don't have a story arc like this. Basically my opposite. But that's neither here or there. So anyway, this is the cover for part 1, which features what's his name? Roy Martin. No, it's not. It's not Roy Marston. No, it is. Roy Marston. Now, a thing about Roy Marston is that he is typically playing these boss characters who are kind of a little bit smuggy, but they're not really like villains. Now, this is actually his first appearance in a Doctor Who story. This story came out in 2007. Ironically enough, in that same year, he would be playing a character in the third season story, Smith and Jones, where he plays a character identical to this. So he's typically typecast. Another actor that we need to talk about, he has a very small role, is actually a character played by Andy Wisher. Wisher? Yes, this is the son of Michael Wisher, the guy who originally played the first Davros. Very cool stuff. So there you go. That's the first cover. Not really much interest there. I like the building at the bottom, which kind of does spoil it, but this actually aired first on BBC 7 radio, so that's really cool. But apart from that, it's kind of bland and generic. However, part 2, which again does spoil it a bit, shows a Cyberman with a crystal, and you've got these 2 other Cybermen in the background there. You can't see it very well there. This is actually a pretty decent cover. I really do like it. And like always with these Big Finish CD covers, I make my own DVD cover. Or at least I get this one. I stole this one off a DeviantArt account, which you can find easy on the internet, at least as far as I'm recording this. With the only difference being I've changed the logo from the old TV movie DVD logo so that it fits better on my shelf. So there's that, and that's easily the best one that this guy has done. They've taken the image from a poster which actually comes on the sleeve for part 2, and it really does work. That is just stunning. That's the spine if anyone's interested. Very nice. And here's the back. Really cool. So, let's conclude season 1 of The 8th Doctor Adventures, starring Lucy Miller. So the story actually starts off with Lucy just waking up. She's seen the head hunter, and she's originally like, you took me away and you shot me or something. How dare you? Who are you? What are you doing? And the head huntress is just like, what, don't you know? This is your job. It's your first day. And then Lucy starts looking around, and she notices they're in actually a office place. And her memory starts becoming skew as she struggles to remember what's going on. She actually seems to be forgetting about the doctor, and she starts believing it's like, hold on, this is the place I actually came for a job interview, but I didn't get it because something happened. I was taken out of time, I believe. No, that's impossible. And then the headhunter, she's like, no, you got the job. It's completely fine. You've got the job. You're working. Let me show you around, and let me just introduce you to all of these people. Whilst this is going on, we cut to the Doctor in his TARDIS, where suddenly a Time Lord appears. This is a particular Time Lord who is actually one of the parts, at least he's like an agent for the Council, of the High Council of the Time Lords. And he's basically stating that they know exactly where Lucy is. She's been taken to her own time, which is actually a blank spot in time at the moment because of something that's happened with Lucy and what she's seen in this witness protection program. We need you, the Doctor, to take a time ring, a nice little callback to Genesis of the Daleks and Revenge of the Cybermen. Was it in the Sontaran experiment? I can't remember. Somebody please remind me if it's in the Sontaran experiment. But anyway, we want you, the Doctor, to pick up Lucy and take her back as soon as you find her. And when the Doctor is asking why he can't go, he basically explains that this thing about Lucy, about what she had seen or witnessed, and why she is there, is actually caught up between a controversy between the High Council of the Time Lords and the CIA, the Celestial Intervention Agency, basically a secret group of Time Lords which has been established in other stories like The Deadly Assassins and other such stories. Basically, they don't want to be seen tampering with this particular timeline, so none of them can really interfere, but the Doctor, being neither part of either side, can go in as a representative for both sides, not just one or the other. And so the Doctor reluctantly, not because he really wants to get involved in Time Lord controversy, but because he's befriended Lucy and wants to keep, he decides to take up the mission and takes the time ring, which actually leads into the opening scene. So this is all like a pre-credit sequence. Really nice that we're getting pre-credit sequence. I don't know why, but I'm always a fan of pre-credit sequence. They're always great at little scenes that set up the story before we actually get into it. I always find them a really nice pacing, and it always nicely builds up to the intro. I always love stuff like that, personally. That's just me. But anyway, back into the story. Lucy is being introduced to all of these office characters. One of them she actually remembers meeting. This girl, I want to say I think it's Karen. Yeah, it's Karen. She is another work person who actually helped Lucy on her interview. In fact, they both went for the same job, and Lucy was looking a bit scruffy, and this girl helped her to tidy herself up whilst they got this job interview. And a headhunter, who's now pretending to be basically somebody who works for this company, she basically explains that yes, the job was only for one person, but we make exceptions for brilliantly talented people, and we thought you two are both brilliantly talented for the job, so we are going to take you both on. And so she then, the headhunter then walks off and meets up with Todd Holton, played by Roy Martinson. And he's basically the main villain. He's basically running this organization, which seems to be very mundane. The story, at least in part one, is mainly one of those like, I'm trying to think of a type of story, a casualty. In fact, comparing this to Smith and Jones, which also had Roy Marston, sorry. They both feel very similar. They're both got like very mundane to the point of extremely boring settings. Like this is an office place, and that is just a typical hospital. Like the story has a great way of setting up this strange atmosphere. We got in the background these constant sounds of keyboards and telephones ringing whilst our characters are speaking, and we also have these great like interlude moments where somebody is talking over the speaker. It's like the gentlemen's toilets on level 4 are currently the lighting has currently gone off. Can you please go to different toilets in the different floors, or go by a toilet near a window? Thank you. Ding, ding. Like it's got that very, very mundane feeling about it, to the point where it is kind of strange. Something's not right. I mean, we know obviously that something isn't right because the way Lucy got here was being by kidnapped. And clearly this is some sort of reason on why she was kidnapped. And at one point Lucy gets a phone call saying that somebody is actually given a higher job as a secretary, and when she goes up to this office to meet this person, this guy tells her to look into this light. This voice is very familiar to us Doctor Who fans, because it's Paul McGann. The Doctor has actually infiltrated this office facility and dehypnotizes Lucy, to which we have a really great banter scene where she compares her adventures to the Doctor with the Wizard of Oz, and the Doctor is like, oh, but which one was I? Was I the Scarecrow? Was I the lion? Oh, I hope I'm not the dog. Or something like that. I really like that little moment. And so they basically the Doctor basically explains he's come into this place to investigate like where Lucy was. He was told by the Time Lords to pick her up and take her away, but he wanted to stay. He wanted to see what's going on. He wants to know what's happening. Why is it that the Time Lords took her from this time when everything seems to be normal and fine? Why does there seem to be a blank spot in the timeline when he can easily when he goes into there seems to be no sort of trouble. Something isn't quite adding up. And so the doctor came in here to investigate and pretended to be one of a new boy, where all of a sudden he keeps getting promoted to the point where he's one of the managers of this company. Really strange. And so they basically split off and trying to learn as much information as what's going on. The doctor learns that basically what this business is about. Despite everything feeling very mundane and very down to earth, they talk about marketing strategies and business meetings and appointments and all that kind of dull stuff. When the doctor actually sees what they're actually doing, it seems like they are planning on a military strategy from robots to try and take down lesser civilizations. What? And the doctor, to try and trip him up, basically goes into detail about all of this complicated futuristic stuff. And to his concern, they know exactly what he's on about, and they actually interpret it into their strategy in a way which will have no casualties whatsoever. But still, the fact that they knew what the hell he was on about these particular lasers, these particular technical equipment he was talking about, it's really concerning. So he goes more into investigating what's going on, whilst Lucy's back at the office, teaming up with Karen, and is trying to do some filing reports. And basically, when Lucy gets back, she actually finds out that Karen, because she messed up on some of the regulations, and because of that, their plannings, their meetings, their contracts were at risk, she got quickly fired. And when Lucy basically is like, hold on, it's not for her fault, I was distracting her, it's me as well, does then Lucy get fired, and they both get chucked out of the building, where here it's revealed they're not on Earth. They look up to where they have just fallen, and they see the building on giant robotic legs with guns, and it seems to be some sort of giant robot on this planet with this purple sky in this jungle, stomping around, just making a big mess of everything. The doctor is curious, and he actually finds a time portal into the modern day Earth, or at least 2006 Earth, a year prior to when the story was actually released. And the doctor meets up with Todd Holtbert, the runner of this company, who, because he scanned the doctor and realised he's an alien, actually believes he's a customer, or at least a high representative of this company. Todd basically explains that he was actually a former employee of this company, but he actually broke out of the hypnotizing controls. But he saw potential, and so he now pretends he's hiring people from Earth, kidnaps them, puts them onto this mundane office, and hypnotizes them in a way where they don't realise that what they're doing is pretty messed up, because their lives are so dull and so mundane that, apart from a few words like robots, murder, massacre, they could just be like any other normal office place. And he actually gives the doctor a little bit of a detour about how he's happening and how this business works. The doctor pretends to be a customer planning on actually overthrowing Gallifrey because they chucked him out of his planet. This is not happening. He's just pretending till he can gain Todd's confidence. And Todd takes him to this meeting where he basically explains that what this company does is they get customers who are desperate for a new planet, a new home, and they then have an army, and they take down all the lesser civilizations, either forcibly removing them or outright killing them. And on this planet, a race, the Shinks. Now, if you remember, in the story The Condemned, featuring the Sixth Doctor and Charlie Pollard, there were actually Shinks in that story. So that's a nice little connection between those two stories. There's no real plot between them. But the Shinks wanted this planet, and so they've hired this company to basically take down all of these people who live on this planet of, I believe the planet's called like Loblos, something like that. And the Doctor sees this, he's learnt enough, he's like, right, I'm going to stop you. So he lowers the actual shielding of this building to the point where the lesser civilization, the one that's on the ground, can actually come in and infiltrate the building. But there's still something that's kind of nagging the Doctor whilst he's doing all this. The Shinks, they're usually a business race, yes, but they're usually doing very small stuff. Invading, conquering, taking over another planet doesn't feel like them at all. And Todd, when learning that the Doctor has weakened their shields, it's like, you shouldn't have done that, you don't understand. And the Doctor's like, of course I understand, you're conquering, you're destroying lesser races, and then the door opens to reveal this lesser race that they have been, this company has been destroying. The Cybermen. It turns out that these people were actually trying to destroy the Cybermen on this planet. And that's our cliffhanger for part 1. A pretty great setup, a pretty great part 1. Feels more like a season of New Who's part 1 of a 2-parter, where it feels a lot more like you can just watch it on its own, but it's obviously a part of a story. But we need to then talk about part 2. Part 2. Where basically, in terms of plot, there's a lot going on. Lucy and Kieran, they learn, they meet up with another character, Malcolm, the guy played by Andy Wisher, who he basically was chucked out of this building before, and now he has to learn to survive on this planet with the Cybermen. There's this whole thing with the Doctor learning about the Time Lord's involvement and Lucy and stuff, and there's just so much going on that I don't think I can really talk about the story in the way I have been doing in these videos. I'm just going to break down all the bits of the plot. Starting with probably the least important, really, is that, not to say it's the least important, but Lucy's plot line in this is really just her trying to survive on this planet to try and get back to the Doctor. And that's really it, really, for the part. I mean, it's only really a segment of it, but that is just a plot line. But let's get on to what people really want to know about, and that's the Lucy Miller plot line. So, spoiler warning, this is going to talk about Lucy Miller's story. So that's a massive spoiler, okay? You have been warned. The Doctor finds out that the reason why Lucy is involved with this conspiracy, in a sense, is that she was one of these remarkable people who these people have taken up and were planning to use her to control and use her mind to in this office meeting. But the Time Lords actually have kidnapped her because of some sort of her relevance to time, and the headhunter knows this, and Todd, who originally expects that these the people who have taken her out of time were some sort of time agents who are using her to discover what their secret plans are, realizing that there is actually no secret plan. The Time Lords didn't really know who they kidnapped, or at least none of their plans. It wasn't really relevant. The headhunter knows, but she kept this a secret from Todd, so that she can get paid from him. And Headhunters reveals that in a potential future, in a potential timeline, Lucy Miller actually grows up to be a far-right activist and start a massive, devastating war on Earth which will destroy the entire population. Basically, she is like the next Adolf Hitler. And this shocks and scares Lucy, and she doesn't understand. She feels like she's not a real person. She's just some made-up fictional character that's been brought up to be this fictional creature. Throughout part 1 and part 2, when she's with Karen, her hearing goes really distorted around Karen, and Karen doesn't seem to notice anything, but Lucy sees it as some sort of disturbance, some sort of manipulation of time, and she expects this is a part of it, this is what's going on. Spoilers again, because it turns out the Doctor discovers that's not the case. The Doctor tries to chase after Lucy after discovering all this, and is like overwhelmed and overthrown. And he then teams up with Karen, to which the Doctor then starts hearing the disturbance in the timeline. But it's not around like anywhere, it's specifically Karen. And the Doctor clicks. It wasn't Lucy. She wasn't this far-right activist that the Time Lords thought she was. It was Karen. They picked up the wrong person. Now that, I don't know how to feel about that. The fact that we get this massive twist of Lucy being this, secretly this like villain in the future, which seems nothing like what she is now, and maybe influences with her and the Doctor has changed things. To then all of a sudden have this other plot twist where all of a sudden, nope, that was all a lie. It was actually this person. The Time Lords just made a stupid mistake. That I feel kind of weakens any sort of tension within it. I mean, it was really, not that I would say that I didn't like the idea of Lucy Miller's far-right thing. It seems like it's one of those New Who trappings. One of the things I don't like about New Who, especially the Stephen Moffat era, where the companions can't just be your average, or at least not average, but like your normal people. They have to be this amazing, this strange temporal anomaly and this massive mystery. I don't like the idea of that. But with Lucy, I felt like it could actually work, because we didn't learn this until the very end. Lucy, for the most part, has been driving her stories by her personality, by her character. Yes, we have this mystery box of why the Time Lords have taken her away, but apart from really Blood of the Daleks, this plotline actually never gets mentioned. The audience learned to like Lucy for Lucy. So, yeah, but then the fact that they did this twist and then reverted it literally as soon as possible really annoys me, and it really disturbs the flow. And it's one of those things where I really just ain't keen on this idea. It feels like it's like, right, haha, we shocked you, haha, twist, it's not actually a shock. We just wanted to shock you for 5 or 10 minutes. Have fun. I don't, it just didn't do anything for, I know a lot of people love this story, and for that reason, for one of the reasons being this element of the story, and if that's what you like the story, then fair enough to you, but just didn't do anything for me. And apart from when it's revealed that Lucy isn't this far-right activist, that's it really on that plot point. As Lucy goes to Todd's office after running away, and she discovers something strange on the floorboards. She breaks up the floorboard and she realises a crystal. And the Doctor finds this crystal and he realises what this is when the Doctor arrives in this office. He realises what this crystal is. It's a technology he's seen before. It's a very particular technology from a very specific species. It's Time Lord technology. Time Lords are involved in this plotline. Essentially, this device allows for basically alternate timelines to sprang out from this focal point in time. Sees the best case scenario and then points the timeline in the best case scenario. Essentially, what the Time Lords were doing was taking this in the vain hopes that Lucy would not become this evil dictator person. And the Time Lords, and actually the Cybermen learn all this, and the Cybermen actually, I haven't talked much about the Cybermen in this story. They're essentially, they're in it a lot in part 2. Like part 2, they are the main threat. But they are the stompy bad guys, which I'm kind of disappointed by. They do have great scenes. There's great little moments where they quote the Tomb of the Cybermen, "We must survive, we will survive." There's a great little moment where the Doctor believes that these ones are from Telos, but these Cybermen don't actually know what Telos is. Telos is actually in their future. These Cybermen have just come from Mondas to this planet where they've started have become inhabitants of this planet, where the Shigs from the twin planet of this planet, or at least a nearby planet, fearing that the Cybermen would come and invade them, had set this organisation down upon them. But the Cybermen are like hardly a part of any sort of factor. They're mainly like background villains. Great background villains, but background villains nonetheless. So anyway, the Doctor asks Lucy to take this crystal, and he takes the crystal off Lucy after she trusts the Doctor. And then the Doctor just gives it to the Cybermen, to where it turns out that because it's this Time Lord technology and the Doctor is a master of this Time Lord technology, he actually distorted the timelines. He actually realised that this thing isn't just to enhance to a particular sense of the timeline. This crystal was actually here to stop the Cybermen in any way, shape or form. So when the Cybermen take this crystal and try and using it, all their heads start exploding. That's really cool. And the story ends with basically the Time Lords going, right, Lucy Miller is now free, she can do whatever she wants. And we had a nice little moment where the Doctor's like, okay, now that you're free, I'll take you back to your own time, because I presume you want to stay back in your own time. And Lucy is like, why, can I stay with you? And the Doctor's like, oh, I'd love to, but I just presumed. And Lucy's like, haha, you want to keep with me. I win, I'm sticking with you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so Lucy and the Doctor travel off. But there's also a semi-cliffhanger in which the headhunter actually sees Kara, realises that she is this person who's been altered by the timelines, and asks to take her as an assistant. This is a cliffhanger to a plot line which I do not think is relevant to any other stories that we'll be tackling. That might be a sad for anybody. I don't have a majority of other stories. In fact, we've only got 2 other stories in the Lucy Miller era. But I'm just stating that is a cliffhanger for other plot lines, for other stories later down the line, if you're planning on getting this series. So there you go. That's Human Resources. Overall, it's a really great story. It's well placed. It's well executed. Part 1 feels like a great setup, build up. We meet nice characters. We get introduced to the setting and we understand how this world works. Whilst part 2 relevates all the plot lines, all the build up from the previous episodes and pays them off and sets it up. But it didn't do much for me personally. I think it's much more my tastes rather than the story being in any way, shape or form bad. But me, as someone who's not so keen in these storyliney, everything must be connected, these revelations, these mystery these mystery boxes, plot lines, as someone who's not interested in them, the story didn't really do much for me. And as a fan of the Cybermen, I was kind of disappointed that the Cybermen could have been a lot better, but weren't well executed in this story, in my opinion. But there you go, that's Human Resources. So join me next time where the Doctor and Lucy will be reunited with a family member as we say hello. I'm trying to remember, I can't remember what it's called. So join me next time for the Zygon who fell to Earth. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!